Welcome to the world of darkness and mystery. In this video, we will embark on a journey through the deepest realms of horror and fear. You will witness unexplainable events and supernatural occurrences that defy reality. Get ready to confront the unfamiliar and something you've never seen before. Are you prepared to immerse yourselves in the realm of nightmares? Let's begin. Horror stories are considered one of the most famous types of stories that many people excel in writing and reading. They provoke fear and terror in the reader, creating excitement and suspense. Among the types of horror stories, morgue horror stories come to tell terrifying events that take place in a location that is a nightmare for many. In the morgue, bodies and organs are dissected, and it is filled with the eerie sound of medical instruments, darkness, and terrifying silence. Through this article, we will present a story from the morgue horror stories, which are among the most thrilling and horrifying stories, hoping that you will like it. My name is Karim, and I am 22 years old. My father passed away recently, and in this world I only have my mother and my younger sister. After my father's death, I had to look for a job to help with household expenses and to cover my remaining year of university. I searched for a job extensively, but luck was not on my side. Until one day, while I was sitting in a coffee shop, I overheard our neighbor, Uncle Muhammad, talking about the need for someone to work with them at the hospital morgue. By the way, Uncle Muhammad works at the public hospital's morgue in our area. I took my chair and sat next to my Uncle Muhammad, inquiring about the job details, salary, working hours, and shifts. He answered all my questions honestly and politely. When I told him that I really needed this job, he advised me, saying, "You're young, and working in the morgue is tough. It might be too much for you." I replied, "I'll leave it to God, Uncle Muhammad. I really need this job." After some insistence on my part, Uncle Muhammad agreed to help me, and I was hired to work in the morgue, cleaning the autopsy area and keeping it tidy. Initially, I had day shifts, but I needed night shifts to attend my lectures. I thought it was more important to get accepted first, and things would become easier later. Indeed, after a while I was assigned to the night shift. The morgue during the day wasn't as frightening because there were many people around, and the hospital was just 50 meters away, with people coming and going, creating a bustling atmosphere. However, the morgue at night was a different story. It was eerie and unsettling, especially with the stillness of the night and the lack of people nearby. But all I cared about was balancing work and my studies. One night, we received news that a body was on its way, and it would be the first body I'd handle during the night shift. The doctor asked my colleague and me to prepare. My colleague went outside to wait for the body, while I stayed inside, getting the place ready for the autopsy, alongside the doctor who would be performing it. Suddenly, the lights went out, and when they came back on, I quickly turned around to find an elderly man in his 70s, his face pale, with burn marks on his body and clothes. Half of his face was burned as well. At this point, I was quite shaken and took a couple of steps back. I thought this man might be lost and had mistakenly entered the morgue instead of the hospital. I asked him, "Who are you, sir, and what brought you here?" Strangely, the man didn't respond immediately. When he finally opened his mouth, smoke with a burning odor emerged. Before I could react, the man suddenly disappeared right in front of me. Initially, I was stunned and speechless. However, the sound of an ambulance siren above me and the doctor's voice urging us to bring in the body quickly snapped me back to reality. I assisted my colleague in moving the body with the trolley into the autopsy room, where the doctor informed me that I would be helping with the autopsy today. Honestly, I turned pale, as it was my first time assisting in an autopsy or even seeing a body up close. My usual job was to clean and mop up after the procedure. But of course, I couldn't refuse, and my face turned even paler when the blood suddenly drained from the man's yellowish face when the doctor opened the body bag. It was the same man I had seen just moments ago. I had assumed he had mistakenly wandered between the hospital's emergency area and the morgue. With trembling steps, I backed away and ended up on the floor. The doctor assured me, "Don't be afraid. I'll be the one conducting the autopsy, not you. You'll just hand me the tools and assist as I instruct." I tried to respond to the doctor and tell him that I had seen the man moments ago, but my tongue felt tied and I couldn't utter a word. The doctor told me, "Come on, my boy, get up from where you are so we can start." I managed to stand up, my legs feeling weak, and the doctor saw that I was in distress. He then said, "You've had enough for today. Go call your colleague outside to come in quickly to take your place because we're just getting started." Before I could fully comprehend the doctor's instructions, the lights went out for a second time, but this time they didn't come back on immediately like before. The doctor asked me to go to the basement and start the generator, calling my colleague to help outside. I was paralyzed, unable to move, and my gaze remained fixed on the body in front of me. I turned on the flashlight on my phone, carefully navigated my way through the basement, and my footsteps were heavy with fear. Suddenly, my phone's light flickered, and then I saw him right in front of me, not more than a few inches away. His scent was like smoke, and burnt flesh hung from his face. I couldn't scream or move. My tongue felt tied, and I was frozen in place. Abruptly, he vanished, and I sprinted away from that spot. I didn't even bother with the generator. By the time I reached the doctor, the lights had come back on. He signaled to my colleague to finish the night shift, and I spent the rest of the night outside the morgue, trembling in fear. The next day, I tried to find information about the man and learned his name was Shahwani, an extremely unusual name. When I inquired about him in his neighborhood, people would immediately seek refuge in Allah from the devil and dismiss me. I later found out that he was a charlatan who practiced black magic and caused harm to people. One day, a fire ignited near him, and he and his apartment were consumed in flames. He died in that fire, a fitting end for his wicked deeds. I returned home and told my mother what had happened. She believed me and prayed for me. However, I started experiencing a terrifying episode where I saw the same man every day, likely his evil spirit or doppelganger. My mother insisted I visit the mosque's imam, who recited protective verses over me and advised me to consistently recite morning and evening supplications. As for the morgue, I left it behind and found a job as an accountant in a simple restaurant, which felt 1,000,000 times safer than working there.